You are listening to the Gentle Project podcast all about kindness. And I am your host, Irene Karthik. Welcome to yet another episode of the Gentle Project podcast all about kindness. This is season 3, and I'm so glad to be back with new stories and new perspectives from different walks of life. Tomorrow, February the 4th, is recognized as World Cancer Day. And on eve of World Cancer Day, I have somebody very special with us today. She's a dear friend who has fought against cancer, and we talk about life beyond cancer and life during cancer. Today's guest is Paromita Bhattacharjee Singh. Let's get talking to her. Good morning, Paro. Welcome to the Gentle Project podcast. So
Hi, Irene.
lovely to have you here. Great.
Thank, thank you so much for having me. I've been following your blog and your podcast for quite some time, so it's great to be here talking to you.
I know. I mean, finally, we managed to find some time. I know we have been planning this for a long time, and I really wanted to have you on the show and share your personal journey with us, which could be helpful. And it's an inspiration for me as a friend and having known you. I thought this story we should share with the larger audience. So, that being said, you know, how has the pandemic been? How are you doing?
So, yes, 2020 has been quite a year, and I think in the beginning, uh, everything seemed so unpredictable and everything seemed so chaotic. But I think over a period of time, I realized this is how life is. And we spoke so much about isolation, but these are things I have experienced previously also as a cancer patient. And I felt like, while many people say 2020 was so unpredictable, etc., but this is actually how life is. It is always unpredictable. uh, so we are doing the best that I'm sure everybody is doing their best that we can, to keep going, put one step in front of another and keep going.
Absolutely. And that is something that, I never thought of that you could relate to, this experience with, your own journey. Uh, that being said, I met you briefly when you, I think, were just diagnosed at that point for probably 5 or 10 minutes, and I never, it never came to my mind that you have been diagnosed. Later I got to know, of course, through a common friend, that you had diagnosed. So having diagnosed at a young age, how did you kind of deal with it? What were your feelings? If you could share a little bit about it.
Sure. So, Irene, I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer at the age of 27, almost, 10, 11 years back. I was told that, yeah, you have ovarian cancer. And to be honest, it was not easy. Like, I was like always a textbook child, I would say. um, you know do your studies, do things that parents tell you. After studies, get a job, and after job, you get married. And so these are the life plans that I'm sure a typical Indian child has been brought up in. So to suddenly be thrown a spanner and being told that you have ovarian cancer was not something that we had factored in. um, and so that's why I fall back and say that life is uncertain. Anything can happen at any point in time. So there's really no predictability, and you have to keep doing your best. You have to keep putting one step in front of another to keep going, in whichever way you can. And so that's, I think that's what my approach was. After, obviously, after hearing that news, there was denial, there was shock, there was anger, sadness. So I went through all of those, all of that cycle. And I think the biggest thing that I did for myself was allowing myself space to feel those emotions, and not really rush that, okay, no, I cannot feel these, or deny those emotions to me. Um, and moving forward, when I was ready, like, experiencing those, and it was a cycle, definitely. But also making sure that I do not get stuck in that cycle, trying to find things to, get me unstuck after having acknowledged those emotions. Trying to find things which can get me unstuck, or and not go into a spiral of those emotions. So that is what I mean by, find things to keep going, basically. So that's the approach that I used then also. And that was a big learning, because when you as you grow older, life has its way of throwing more and more at you. So, and that's the approach that I use now also.
Absolutely. I mean, when you were, talking about the different stages of, when you are thrown at a certain situation or something happens in life, it is almost like those seven stages of grief, in many ways, where there is denial, and then you kind of slowly find your way into recovery. Uh, what were some of the outlets, that you cut at that time? How did you know what was some of the things that helped you kind of accept and kind of help you in your own recovery journey?
Sure. So, like I said, being told at 27 that you have cancer, I felt sorrow for myself. Like, I went through immense, like, self pity, I would say. Why me? Why did this happen to me? I was in denial. I was in pain. That, am I going to die? Like, those are questions that a typical 27-year would probably not uh, think about. And I just want to say that all of this is normal. Like, whenever we come across any painful or difficult situation in life, all of these emotions are normal. So we first should accept that. Like, I know, like, when my friends and family members, or people we knew, came to know about the diagnosis, everybody, of course, it is well intentioned that, everybody will say, no, you have to be brave, you have to be strong. um, and whoever, I would speak with and meet would say that this is okay, it's fine, like, you have to be fine. But I felt that the real support actually to cope came from, my friends and family, who were okay with me not being brave, who were able to hold space for whatever I was going through. They were able to walk alongside in whatever journey I was on, without judgment. So, without trying to, fix the situation, or fix you, or rush you into a space where you are not. So I think that's very important, right? That holding space. So don't hard press yourself because of people's expectation. Don't, hide your emotions, or like suppress your emotions, because people are expecting you to be strong and brave or resilient. So it's very important, I think, first to find that tribe, find that. And I, like, our common friend, I would say, I've been very fortunate to have found people like that, and found that in my family, where it was okay, I could, sit and cry without having that guilt, that, oh, why am I find why am I feeling this way, or I have to put on a brave front, that things would be okay. So I would say, accept your emotions as they come, and find a safe space to express these emotions. And most importantly, hold space for yourself, allow yourself, for these feelings. So that's why I like, worry, anxiety, depression at times, like, some of these are very common, right? So while I'm saying that, we need to hold space for those emotions, but it is also important to recognize that we do not go into a, downward spiral, um, and with these emotions. So if you are having those moments, it is very important that we ask for help. That um, and like, as a person, I find it very hard to share that, I'm not okay. I find it very hard to say that I'm not okay. But I think we owe it to ourselves that we are not champions in everything. And if things are affecting us, things we are not able to get control, or get a handle on things, then we owe it to ourselves to ask for help. um, so there are, it could be your friends, it could be your family, somebody you love, trust. It could be cancer support groups. Like, at a time when I was diagnosed, technology was not so much like there, but still it was like, Facebook, I think, had just, like, it was something quite new for us, right? So, but still there were some small, like, cancer support groups where you could, like, express yourself and share what's happening, what's going through, what you're going through. Because at that point I didn't have any friends. People, regular people, like, in the sense, like, friends, they would be talking about who going out or something that's going on in their work, or regular day-to-day life. But things I was going through, I didn't find, like, who can I share it with. So somebody who's going through a similar journey, you can just, like, share what you are going through, hear their experience, and then you feel not so alone. So it's like, that's another thing. Like, if you find that you are not able to manage those emotions, it's important to find a place or help, basically, where you can express or you can share, your have a heart to heart with other people, maybe on a similar journey. Other things, like, I did, I would say, I took help of, like, things that I like to do. Um, I led a very, very busy life before being diagnosed with cancer. So, like, 12 hours of working, and weekends would be with friends. So it was like, all the time, go, go, go. So cancer was something, that diagnosis was something that forced me to slow down, right? So I was able to find time for things that I'd always wanted to do. I remember reading the whole Harry Potter series. I remember watching every episode of Friends. I remember picking up some new hobbies, and it was like, after a very long period of time, that I was staying with my family, like my parents. Um, because I had always been, like, out after my 12th grade, either in a hostel or working or something. So this was like one time when, everybody was at home, and I used to cook so much, and I used to bake so much with my mother. So all of those things did wonders, I would say, with my mental health. I used to go for walks or drives whenever my health was little better, and with friends, talk with them. Um, so those things were did wonders, I would say, to my mental health. Because sometimes, if you are not able to move mentally, you have to move yourself physically to get your mental state to a different place. um, so that's I would say, another thing that I did, which helped.
Yeah, I mean, there were so many things that you said that, were kind of stuck onto my head. One is making space, because a lot of times I'm guilty myself, when I'm offering support to somebody, I get into the solutioning mode. you know what. But making space and just allowing people to just express the emotions and go through that feeling is so important. That's very important. And also, finding things that you like to do, plus physical moving physically, I think that is something that people don't think about, how it can help, but actually it makes a difference. uh,
Right, right.
I also was wondering, I know you were working. How was it when it comes to, people at work, and, the support that you got from work, and also reintegrating with work after you took your gap? Was it easy? Was it difficult? uh, are companies currently, I know we have healthcare and there are a lot of other support, but in terms of just more of a mental connection, uh, I think now people are more uh, aware and support. But at that time, what was your experience?
So, Irene, I would say again, I got lucky to have an organization which supported me at that point in time. Um, and apart from like the things I spoke about, I also spoke with my supervisor, and um, I've told her that while I'm at home, I'm like, there are days when I'm feeling quite good. I want to do a assignment voluntarily. It need not be related completely to my role, but like I said, I wanted to do things which get me out of my headspace. I can't let cancer, define my life or that period. So I I took up some assignments which were quite exciting. Also, it was not 100% related to my job profile, but like I felt it's very important to pursue actively and deliberately things that you're going to that are going to get you out of that funk. And also, after slowing down, you realize that what is, like, the kind of things, or what are the kind of values that you want to pursue. And I wanted to do something about, like, related to culture, etc. So I spoke to my supervisors. Yes, it did take some time for them to work out what exactly can be done, because this there's a lot of this was a little vague, right, and out of the blue. But like I said, I was very fortunate to have found, like, even that thing anchored me quite a bit. um, so at workplaces, I think, um, the kind of support, I would say, that can be provided is not let, like, when you're looking at somebody who is not probably at their 100%, but wherever they are at, there is always work. um, and it's, if people want, they can find things which they can do to help support that person. For me, it was like, work, taking time off for whenever I had medical needs, having flexibility. And like, at that point in time, work from home was like um, a very big thing, right? It was only for select roles, etc. And I was not very senior or anything at that point in time. So but like I said, I found support. I was able to have that opportunity. And um, workplaces, like we typically say, have these very stringent rules, which may not work. So I think in these or in situations where a person who's not, like, who's medically or mentally, emotionally not completely present at work, uh, they have given the best of their lives and years to an organization. So it is very important that at these times, and these are the times when you can really make or break that employee employer relationship. um, so as an employer, I would say, and I was I was a HR person also, I've always tried to see situations where you can find a way to provide support to the person who needs it, um, depending on where they are at.
Yes, I mean, I think what comes to my mind is a lot of times we go by the rule book saying that, okay, I mean, a lot of organizations, not all, I'm sure all organizations would extend the leave and all the benefits that is required to kind of go through. But I think also attempts could be made to actually identify what that person needs. It can be, like, as you
Correct.
said, work, finding small pieces of work that can keep the person engaged. So I think that bit can
Like I
actually,
can
yeah.
sorry to jump in, but I can remember a situation where one of our employees, and this was much later, like when I was working here in the US as a HR manager. One of the employees had to undergo surgery to amputate his leg. um, but he was able to work from home, and he we found a solution where he could work as a consultant to the project that was going on. So personalizing that situation as much as possible within the guidelines, uh, I think that is an attempt that really helps. So
Yeah, I mean, I think I couldn't help but get that thought about workplaces, given the fact that both of us have spent quite a lot of time, working for companies, and somehow that kind of creeps up in the mind, saying, how can you make workplaces much more inclusive? Uh, so my next question would be, what was your biggest challenge while you were going through your treatment, and then recovering?
um So biggest challenge, like I said, was mindset. Because there, like I said, there could be days, or there were days when I felt, oh, I'm absolutely spiraling. Like you get thoughts of your own mortality. You start questioning those things. Um, and uh, so, so mindset, I would say, was the biggest challenge. And like I said, one has to make deliberate attempts to get out of it. It's not that it's going to change on its own. Because, like if you're going up a hill, if you do not put any effort, you will end up coming down. And I think it is the same with mental health too. um, and also ovarian cancer, like at that time, both my mother was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. And it's not very easy to diagnose this. Like, I was lucky because I had a very sharp pain in my stomach. And eventually, like after doctors tried to find out, then I was operated on, and a tumor was removed. So I was very lucky that it was removed, and it was found when it was, because typically this disease goes really unnoticed. It's very hard to detect also. And also because uh, we are we are completely unaware that what the symptoms could be. So it's not just like people, regular people, but also doctors, because like I said, the symptoms are so generic, they are so wide, that they either misdiagnose it, or it gets treated like in isolation, like treat one symptom in isolation. Due to which, like usually this disease is found out at a very advanced stage. um, but like I said, I was lucky that it was discovered quite early. And if the reason I'm saying this is because if it is diagnosed early, it is easier to treat and manage, and the quality of life and longevity of life depends on when you were diagnosed. um, like for my mother, she was diagnosed quite late. Like we went to innumerable, I think, doctors and scans and medicines and all, and it was discovered like at stage 3. So by the time the disease had spread quite a bit to other organs also, other than just the ovary. um, so um, so that was another challenge, that um, there are no tests which tell you that, oh, you have ovarian cancer or not. So it is a constant thing of listening to your own body, being very aware of how your body feels and what is right for you, and being your own health advocate. Like like I said, that this disease could be misdiagnosed or being treated in isolation for each individual symptom. Um, and so even if, let's say, a doctor is saying that we have done this, done that, um, it's very important to use, read on what could be other causes. If you're not feeling well, you have to tell your doctor that no, I'm still not feeling completely okay, and I do not think a certain treatment is working, etc. So and again, like, in a South Asian, I would say, South Asian upbringing or South Asian diaspora, it is like, you're just expected kind of to follow, okay, a doctor or somebody who's like elder to you. If they are telling you something, you're kind of expected to follow. Um, so uh, that needs a little bit of inner strength and going against like what is typically expected to be your own health advocate. So that was another, like, I would say, learning curve on our part, to speak, like, with doctors about, educate yourself about your body, educate yourself about the disease. And like, I also spent a lot of time learning how holistic healing can be. So because a lot of time in allopathic medicine, or like, medicines, it is mostly like the only that particular disease or that particular symptom is treated, medicines are directed around it. But I feel like you have to, when healing has to happen, it has to happen at a more holistic level. Like I said, I started questioning because apart from me and my mother, nobody else had like any history of cancer. So we were like, where is this coming from? And I then learned that, oh, there are so many toxins in the environment. So those are things that I started educating myself on, and that has helped long term also, like just not like that particular cancer diagnosis, but beyond, also to learn how to live in a more holistic manner. So yeah, I think these were some of the things we did.
Yes, I mean, the questioning doctors, we don't question. I mean, when we go and meet doctors or even elders, we have never learned, at least Indians, I can speak about Indians, that we don't really question and discuss. We just go by what they say. But I think things are slowly changing where people are trying to be more aware and the question. And in fact, ovarian cancer, even breast cancer for that matter, women are still, there's still a lot of taboo and
Yes,
stigma around it in our
yes,
society.
yes, absolutely. uh, like, in like, um, um, like in general, I would say, in an Indian household, and especially I think our previous generations were not so comfortable speaking about death or disease. And even if it is spoken about, it will be in very hushed tones, or like it would be considered inauspicious to have at length discussions about these things, right? um, so none of these things were discussed openly with any of us. And just basic, I would say, uh, basic thing of having ownership of our bodies, being our own advocates, even those things are not, like, spoken about. So basically anything to do with women body parts, any talk or any discussion having to do with women body parts is considered a taboo in the whole, at least I can say, for the Southeast Asian context. And the taboo is so strong that even if there is something medically wrong, women tend to hide it and not talk. Or maybe they don't know who should I talk to, who should I reach out to. A lot of times women are not comfortable talking to male doctors also, even though the doctor is completely qualified in that particular area. But they are hesitant because of social upbringing, that how to talk to a man about women problems, to, say that. So there's a sense of shame that prevails, when we have to talk about our own body parts. I'm sure, like, all of us have gone through when we were young and in school, there are parts in our biology or like in our education where the body of a person or the reproductive organs of a person are taught, right? But everybody is so uncomfortable around it. Girls are looking down and teachers are looking like giving a blank, no expression. They're just trying to rush through it, and boys start snickering, and this like no education, I would say. Or body parts should be talked about like body parts. Like with my girls, they know that okay, what are breasts, call them breasts. If you have a vagina or a penis, you call them that, and don't associate it like with any I would say social thing, right? They all like our mouth or ear or nose, tongue, they have functions to perform. It's the same. um, and in fact, like this there was a study which I was reading, was done in India, where uh, just because of the stigma that is attached to cancer, and especially gynecological cancer, because women end up not talking about it or not going to the doctor at an earlier stage because of the shame or stigma or taboo. uh, they seek treatment at a very late stage, at an advanced stage, when the cancer becomes advanced. So it's very important, I feel, for us to normalize this education of our bodies for our next generations. It's important to do a self examination. It's important to have a very robust plan where you at least meet up with your OB/GYN at least on a yearly basis, uh, to make sure that your health is at its best. Mm.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Uh, and also, I mean, while you were describing your journey and how you have coped with it, how has been, mental health? Yeah, we spoke about it. So, how has been, how did you find to ground yourself after all these years? I know because I'm sure that you still would need to go and get checked. There would be regular intervals where you need to ensure that there's no relapse. And but also, I'm sure that it would also take a toll mentally. Now that you also have, you are a parent, you have a lot in mind. So how do you kind of find that balance in your life?
Sure. Thanks, Irene. I think one of uh, the things which has helped me is a lot is being grounded spiritually. So I was always interested, I would say, in spirituality. However, like with lives happening, we hardly get time. But at that point, like I started reading quite a bit, and spiritually also, like there are groups I connected with. um, and the beauty of all of that is basically reading scriptures or hearing people who are bona fide speakers, is that you realize that you are not the only person in the world who is going through something bad, or like who this is happening with. um, and there's so much that you can learn from having realized this, that yes, if others have gone through this. So one of my books that I repeatedly go back to is the Bhagavad Gita. It was spoken like almost 5,000 years ago, and it, like if you read it, you understand it starts at a note where the main protagonist of the book, Arjun, is so distressed, he's like crying, and he's not in a good mental shape. But it ends at a note where he's completely confident and he's ready to fight a war, and do his best possible and put his best step forward in the world. um, so that was something like I read, and I still continue to do, to see what life lessons we can learn from this. And one of the biggest learning, I would say, has been that the moment you're born, basically you start sign up for death, disease, and old age, right? So it's like going into an exam knowing, okay, what is the question going to be, right? So finally acknowledging that was very liberating, right? And like I said, before I was diagnosed or my mother was diagnosed, nobody spoke about death or like terminal disease. All of these things were considered like inauspicious, or at best minimized, like, something this is not good, or pretend it doesn't exist, like, right? But actually acknowledging and accepting these things is very, I think, liberating. um, that acceptance basically, I think, sharpens, or has sharpened my ability to accept life. When you know that you have no control on the outcome, you uh, can focus more on the process. So that's what I did. I focused more on how I can change my efforts to live, rather than focusing on what the outcome is going to be. um, all of us have the power to choose. So like I remember, for while I was going through the treatment, I used to, like, when I used to go for my chemotherapy sessions, I used to deliberately think and pray that this is something that is going to heal me. And I used to do that, like, for the whole 2.5 hours that it took. And basically nurture a positive and a good outlook. um, I started reading stories about people who had survived cancer, who were leading good lives, instead of listening to, because when it comes to cancer, people will give you statistics of 5 year survival or 10 year survival. So instead of reading those statistics, I started reading more about people who had survived cancer, who were living their lives beyond cancer. So focus more on the healing part of the process. So basically, deliberately, like I said, making conscious decisions on how to be kind to yourself, not beat yourself up, too much. Practicing hope, practicing resilience, practicing acceptance, and chasing your own happiness instead of chasing a picture that other people have painted for you. So all of these have been learnings, I would say, from my own cancer journey. And recovery is not a race. Everybody moves at their own different pace. So you have to know yourself, be kind to yourself, as I say. So and this is something like, it goes beyond just cancer. Like, even in our day-to-day lives, there are days when you don't feel so great, or you don't feel 100%, and that's okay. For that day, allow yourself to not be okay. But know that tomorrow is again a day for you to, the sun is going to come up, and you can again make an effort at uh, doing better, or being more positive. um,
I mean, yes, absolutely. And I think every person who undergoes cancer and different kinds of situations in life, it is amazing whenever I have had the opportunity to meet them, speak them. There's always that, you know, there's a change, there's a transformation, there's a more understanding, a deep understanding of life, and uh, so what is how has your view shifted? I know your view has must have shifted, but if you were to kind of share, how has Paro before cancer versus your life now? I'm sure you would have gone through magnitudes of change, but what in your view has been different, or something that has stayed with you?
Sure. So, like, cancer, like, even though, like I said, I'm in remission for the last 10 years, and like, much like life, there is no guarantee that the cancer would not be back. I need to be medically monitored for the rest of my life. But my life, or like me, I'm not defined by that, by cancer, right? And that's true of any hardship that we go through in life. We cannot allow those particular hardships to overwhelm our lives, or define us. that particular hardship to define us, and that feel is the most important part. Practicing resilience, like I said, practicing hope, these and like making deliberate attempts, I would say, to chase your own happiness. um, these are some two three things I would say that have stayed on, that I would probably, like, when I was younger, I used to always tend to fall back on, like, parents or close friends, that uh, this is happening, oh my god, what should I do? Right? Give me a solution. I don't know what to do. But just being comfortable, I think, with that uncertainty, that um, uh, like with hardships in life, being comfortable, not getting overwhelmed, overworked. Because I think with cancer happening, or my mother passing, uh, we have seen, like, really, to be honest, I would say, lows in life, right? uh, so you kind of feel that, oh, okay, if I have lived through that, and that has passed, then coming to any other hardship, you feel like, okay, this also will pass, right? It's not going to stay there permanently. And again, like, in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there's a verse which says that basically happiness and distress are going to come and go. So there is nothing like out of the ordinary if there is distress. Yes, the distress will be there for some time, but then it will go, and there'll be some happiness, and again some distress would come. So that is how, like, I would say, that growing up happened, that to accept these things, understand these things happen. And like, resilience is not something that comes naturally to me, or like, chasing happiness is not something that comes naturally to me. So making deliberate attempts, either like listening to other people who've gone through similar experiences, reading scriptures, or speaking with people who lift you up, connecting with friends who lift you up, who can understand your journey and can understand how you are making those deliberate attempts to basically pursue that positivity and hope. Um, so those are some of the things I would say have been changes that I still continue to practice. So, like, whatever I'm expressing or sharing today, it's not like I have mastered any of this. I'm very much like, a work in progress. But I'm definitely not the same person that I was when I first heard the word cancer. You've been diagnosed with cancer. I'm definitely not that person. Uh,
Yeah, I mean, I have seen you how you have, kind of, obviously from a distance, you know, based on, common friends, and through our groups that we share. You're passionate about fitness, the environment, food. So I've seen different shades of you, and there's so much to learn from you. uh, how has the kids, I mean, how is it now that you're a parent? How are you managing it all?
so so yes, like, I think uh, with children, so I take a pause here because when I was first diagnosed with cancer, one of my ovaries and fallopian tubes was removed. So it's, I would say, like, completely thanks to doctors, and also having that belief that, yes, like, at the time when I was ready to have children, uh, again, like, not letting cancer define that, how what life is going to look like. So yes, I have two girls, young kids, 6 and 3. um, so I've been very blessed in that way, that even after receiving a cancer, ovarian cancer diagnosis especially, I have been blessed with two kids. So parenting, I think, is always a challenge, Irene, because there's so much going on, in their lives, and it's a way to, I think, it's a way to practice selflessness, because kids, it's like all about them, right? So yes, there are moments which are so frustrating, and you're like, oh my god, like I just cannot take it anymore. But it is a great reminder every day that how you can provide, like how you can serve beyond yourself. And there are so many times, like, not just me, like all parents, I would say, mothers especially, but so many fathers, mothers across the world would know this, that it's like a way, it's basically serving somebody selflessly, if that has to be defined, is parenting. um, and in the pandemic especially, I know, like, I'm a stay at home mom, and I also know of so many parents who are working, continuing to work while their kids are home. It is not easy, both ways, I would say, for stay at home parents or for somebody who's working from home and their kids are there. It is a humongous task. And we all have to find ways where we can support each other. uh, Earlier parenting, I would say, was a little more easy, because there's this adage that's like, it takes a village to raise a child, and that village was there in I would say, in Indian communities or societies. But now, with the pandemic, and with people living in nuclear families, or living in like a different country altogether, it's so many times it's like all up on you, right? You become the whole and soul for that child. And in those situations also, I feel like it is very important to ask or seek help, or be like that village for other kids also. Provide a village for your kids also, how whichever way it is possible, like. And a lot of times we rely on like virtual calls with like other family members, or with friends, so that they remain connected. um, so yeah, because like, I feel like a lot of parenting hmm, is not just like you look after their basic needs or education, etc., but also how they are growing, like in their values, or how they are like as basically you're training them to be a responsible adult. uh, so that is how we look at parenting. Providing them, like, especially at a young age, it's very important to provide them like with a very loving environment, nurturing environment, to fulfill their emotional needs. I was reading some studies, like kids who are fulfilled emotionally as children grow up to be more resilient, or more emotionally stable individuals when they grow up. So that's another thing, we have to consciously inculcate. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I couldn't imagine, that's where, I'm always in awe of all the parents that I know, that, taking care of yourself as well as taking care of the child, ensuring, providing for them. It is probably the most challenging yet most rewarding.
so. A lot of parenting is actually like, like you said, taking care of yourself is also a part of, I would say, parenting. I read this quote somewhere, where it says, you cannot fill from an empty cup. So you have to be completely filled before you can start pouring in somebody else's cup or bowl. And children watch you, they observe you. So I cannot tell my daughter that you should wake up early in the morning if I'm sleeping very late, right? They do more what you do than what you say. So, so
Absolutely.
if you're taking care of yourself, you're working out, um, or you're making sure that you're fit medically, or you're pursuing your passions, you pass that on in a very latent way to your children. um, so that's also part of parenting, I would say, self-care.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've seen you also being there for other women, very active on many forums, championing and ensuring your regular cancer awareness posts that come. It is really amazing. I think if I we can go on talking at length, but I'm conscious that if taken a lot I have taken a lot of your time, but I want to ask one last question, is that what is, I know, your one tip for making the world a better place, as
Wow, that's
cliched as cliched as it sounds, but it's interesting to hear different perspectives on this question.
Irene, I think I take a lot from your, the blog that you have started and the podcast that you have started is being kind, basically, right, to yourself and to others. Like, I think I spoke at length how you should be kind to yourself and, allow space for yourself, and also be your own advocate for growth. Uh, so that is like, kindness to yourself. Sometimes people, say that, oh, and like, again, growing up in a South Asian diaspora, you are kind of told not to take up so much space, right? But you are a person, you are going to take up space. Like, even with our children, we ask, right, what do you want to be when you grow up? But I think the question we should be asking them is that, who are you, what are you now, right? And having that inner journey, that having that inner, I think, being grounded spiritually. So all of these are ways where you can show kindness to yourself. So that's one, and kindness to others. Like, we know in social media there's so much projection of how perfect our lives are, but I know that everybody's life is not really perfect, right? So you never know, like, somebody might be posting something very happy, but inside they're completely the opposite. So you never know what journey people are on, what they are going through. So it's very important, again, to practice that deliberately kindness to others. So that's I think what I can say.
That is so true. I mean, uh, social media lives are definitely whatever are not true reflections of people. So it is very important to not judge and just be kind
Yes,
to people.
absolutely. And like I said, so you said about environment also. I very strongly feel like you should be kind to, the
Yes,
place where you are living,
yes,
the environment. So I would add that third dimension of,
absolutely.
uh, and in a Indian culture, I would say, when we were young, things were not just things, right? There was always some, like the moon is your relative, Chanda Mama, or the rivers are your mothers, cows are your mothers, or, like, earth is your mother. Like,
Yeah,
there's always that personalization which was
right.
done. So I still feel we should be looking at our earth and our environment and natural resources the same way,
Yeah,
and treating them with kindness and respect.
yeah. Awesome. I think your daughter, you've been away, so I'll let you go. Thank you so much for taking time out today.
Thank you so much, Irene, again, for bearing with me while we
No, no, no.
played
It was
phone
it.
tag.
No, it was lovely
So
talking to you.
it was great talking to you, and really thank you for this opportunity.
I'm grateful that we were able to do that.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode. Uh, there were so many things that were shared that can be applied to our lives. The power to choose, the power to be kind, and the importance of being kind to ourselves and giving space to heal during whatever situations life throws at us. I'm reminded of this quote by Maya Angelou, which says, I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it. And that's what I'm going to take away from this episode. Uh, Take care. Please do share and subscribe to the podcast. If you have a story to share, please do write in to me at thegentleproject.kindness@gmail.com, or you could visit thegentleproject.io, which is our website, and leave a note for us. If you want to be a part of this small initiative, please feel free to write into me at thegentleproject.kindness@gmail.com. It would be lovely to have more people join on this wonderful journey. And please do share your feedback and share with us if there are any guests that you would want to listen to on the show. And so until next time, stay safe and stay kind.